the importance and the novelty of rock bottom is you have nothing to lose. And I think I went to those auditions knowing I did not have the training, did not come from these jazz schools, didn't wear my red lipstick, but I had nothing to lose. So I think I allowed myself, I just gave it a go. There was nothing riding on it. There were no expectations. There was no heartache, you know, there was no trauma attached to the yes or the no, or you're through to the next round. There was nothing. And it freed me up entirely. So going to these auditions, I just had to go. And even as, you know, as late as I was in my cruise contract, you know, on the ship in the middle of the Mediterranean, and was still learning things and was still asking and still watching my castmates, and was learning so much. And I think diversity is so important. And I think it just sort of goes back to the kind of career you want to have.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Puerschel, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Lydia, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I am so appreciative that you take the time. You know, I know you're home right now and you want to be with your family, but yet you're sitting here with me and taking the time to talk. So thank you, my love.
No, thank you. This has been a real highlight of my day in quarantine, and I'm always here to talk about the dance world, spread positivity, spread encouragement. So it's lovely to talk more.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. I would love to introduce you to the Point to Rise audience, as in, like we've talked earlier, I know a little bit about your journey, but can you share where you came from and how your dream changed in the middle and how you were able to pivot and still be okay with where you are right now?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I think with my own podcast, I found so often that everyone has such a different journey. It starts similar. And I think mine, like lots of little young girls, was just fell in love with the tulle and the satin shoes and the stories. And I was really lucky to kind of go to a dance school where it was just encouraged to run around. It was encouraged to listen to the music and have character and have fun, which I think is where it initially all started for me. And it's funny because ballet sometimes can be such a contrast of that. Ballet is very disciplined, it's very focused, it's very controlled, and at times not much character. You know, normally it's smiling and pleasant and fairies and princesses, but not always draws on so many colours and so much diversity. But I did start with all that diversity, and after that, you know, fell in love with the ballet world and was so fortunate to go to a really amazing ballet school in England, Elmhurst Ballet School. And we're so lucky in the UK to have these really, you know, distinguished, prestigious schools where you breathe ballet. It's everything. Your teachers were these greats in the UK ballet companies, and they dance, and they have all this culture sewn into them. So it was so lovely to be surrounded by that from a really young age. And kind of worked my way up through there. Was there from about 11 or 12 all the way till I was 19 and graduated. And it was tough. It was really tough. Again, I think these schools are so charming, but it's really difficult. And I think it's just hard growing up, you know, like any teenager, you go through so many emotions so quickly. So growing up alongside the ballet was always just, you know, it's tough. Came out the other side, was working with Northern Ballet for a while and loved it. But I didn't get the job. I think working so hard, you just crave that stability, you crave that security that you've done enough and at the finish line, you've done it. You know, the letting go, the kind of breath and being like, I've done it, I don't have to worry anymore. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for me. I got very close and everyone was super encouraging. I knew I was doing the right things, but it didn't arrive. I didn't get there. And obviously now so much of that was my own mentality saying I haven't arrived. And from that moment, auditioning, being around Europe and trains, planes, trams, everywhere for an audition, and nothing stuck and nothing got. And it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. I had performed, I knew I was capable, but I just didn't arrive. I just didn't get there. Really, really hard. And from that moment, I think I felt like I was faced with, like you said, a pivot. How do I go? Do I just stop, go to university, completely retrain? Or what do I do? And I think for me, it stemmed back to what it was right at the beginning. It was the performing, it was the being on stage, it was the music and the wildness and the freedom that came with dancing. So I kind of was like, if you're not going to let me do it in a tutu, I'm going to find my own place. I took myself up to London, did so many cruise ship auditions, which are just another world. I could talk about it for hours. The differences are amazing. And that really, it opened my eyes to a whole new sort of realm, a whole new territory, a whole new stream of dance that I didn't allow myself to see. And I was doing okay. I was doing quite good for someone who'd only, done Sugar Plum and was running around doing Lilac Fairy. To be actually in these jazz auditions was holding my own. And I got an agent, and again, they really encouraged me in a way I wasn't really encouraged so much in ballet. And then I ended up on a cruise ship just last year and had the time of my life. Saw myself as a performer, but as an individual, I grew so much stronger. I believed in myself. I believed what I had to offer was okay and was good enough. And I think really for the first time, that's how I arrived at a place where I felt good enough and I felt worthy. And from there, I got emails on the ship from this company I had auditioned at numerous times in Berlin called the Friedrichstadt-Palast. My German's not so good. I'm probably not pronouncing that.
It's good.
Impeccably.
I understand you.
Yeah, exactly. And I auditioned, back in my ballet days and they liked me. But again, there was never the security. There was never the job. And of course, the minute I was on the ship, they, came hunting me down and wanted me. And I was committed to a 7-month contract. I couldn't just pop over to Berlin. And the minute it finished, I said, okay, I'll come when I finish. And I landed on the Friday from the ship and was out there in Berlin on the Monday, and they offered me the job on the spot. And it was sort of this moment where I was like, it's just always so typical. These things happen when you don't expect them. They happen when you kind of don't need them. And from there, I joined last November. And it's really my dream company. We're a complete company of ballet dancers. We're all super tall and we all are dressed in these amazing costumes from world-renowned designers. We have the largest theatre stage in the world, and we're appreciated. We're like a gem of Berlin. They love it. Like the Europeans, the Germans, they just love this avant-garde circus, showgirl, Moulin Rouge, just a circus. They love it. And that's where I'm at the moment, obviously, COVID permitting. I was doing that full time, and it's grueling, 8 shows a week. We're really pushed through our paces, but it's amazing. It's really my dream job, and really kind of mixes the ballet that I love so much and devoted myself to, but also the other side of me, the side of jazz and excitement and, red lips and wearing fishnet and heels. And I love that side. And I'm really happy to be in a place where they're married.
Okay, I have so many questions. Thank you for sharing that so passionately. I love it. I want to know first, where did the need to express yourself through dance come from? Like, do you remember how it started?
I don't remember doing anything else, wanting to do anything else. I feel like the minute I knew I could do it as a profession, it was like, oh, okay, well, that's just what I'll do. And it's funny, no one ever told me, I had teachers who encouraged me, but I don't come from a dancing background. I've never really known another dancer. There wasn't an influence in my life where I saw that as a route. But and I think I'm appreciating it, not only because of the pandemic, but as I've grown older, it's just really who I am. It's really in my blood, wanting to perform. I think it's the expression. It's where I'm most comfortable. It really is. And I think I'm an overthinker, and I'm quite intense. I can be. And I think dance is such a way for me. It's meditative. It's meditation for me. It really enables me to stop, the mind going mad, is actually allow my body to do the things that my mind can't. It really has always been that way, I think, actually.
Wow, beautiful. I can totally relate to that, by the way. So you said something going through the school process was really tough. Can you go a little deeper on that? Why was it tough? I have my own experience on why is it tough. And it is always good to, hear other people talk about the toughness that we experience in those formative years.
Yeah, it is. And everyone will have their battle. Everyone will have the mountain to overcome, and the adversity and their own version of it. I was lucky, like I said, my school was so good, and they not only pushed me, but I knew they saw something in me. I think the place I struggled at, and I think the toughness came with, I think it's so hard. And again, even reflecting, you never really know how much was put on you or how much you created. The hunt for perfection ran very, very deep in me. And I'm competitive for sure, but I think I crave acknowledgement that I'm doing enough. And I think at school, when you've got 12, 14 girls in front of you, all similarly competitive and similarly perfection, I think I would drive myself a little bit crazy on not being perfect and not being the best. And of course, what is the best? What is perfect? It's all figurative. But I think I was a lot responsible for driving for not being nice to myself, for not being kind, for not allowing myself to be in the process, for not accepting who I was. I think I spent a lot of time wanting to be different. I'm slightly taller, and I think especially in England, I never had a ballet teacher that was taller than me, which is okay. But I think also,
wow. I can see that.
Yeah, it is. It's tough because it's a role model. It's someone also you can see who looks like you, and that's mine. There's a lot of other people who don't see themselves on the stage, but I think it was a bit of that. And I think I'm fortunate. I've got some of the right body things, but I also don't have a lot of the body things. I've never been naturally super, super skinny, which as a tall dancer can feel like more pressure that you do have to be super slim. Never had those lovely bendy feet, never had those super high extensions. So a lot of things that and again, I feel like I was telling myself with a chip on my shoulder, I was not good enough. I have these things against me. If I could go back and tell her, like,
I was just about to ask you that. What are the things that you would tell that, I don't know, 13, 14, 15-year-old you? Like, what's that one advice?
I think just there's not one version of success. There's not one version of perfection. And all those things I didn't like about myself, now they're not gone away, but it doesn't matter to me anymore, because I think those things that I don't like, I now have something that I appreciate about myself that dwarfs that, and it doesn't make it important anymore. And I think if I could tell her to just be kinder to yourself, like, you've got a lot going for you. Don't tell yourself you're not going to make it and you're not worth anything because you've got a few things going against you. And I think I spent a lot of unnecessary time just being cruel to myself, being really, really cruel and nasty. And it's obviously I regret it. Obviously I wish I didn't, I don't want to look back and remember that I didn't like myself. I really at times loathed myself. I loathed the shell that I belonged to. But it pushed me far. It pushed me really, really far. And I'm so grateful for, I guess the standard I reached, and the places it got me, and also for the lesson it taught me to be kind to yourself and to allow yourself to grow and evolve and change, and don't run from that. I guess don't run from it, embrace it.
Okay, let's go a little deeper in here, because you said something like you turned into this higher version of yourself, where you do not talk to yourself like that anymore. And getting to that place is a journey. It will always be a journey. I want to know, what do you remember the point where you found yourself turning and realizing where, hey, what I'm doing here right now is actually not supporting myself, it is supporting everybody else's needs. And particularly as a dancer, you have to not only support yourself, but you also need to know who you are. And I think it would be of value for anybody that wants to, start that journey or get there. Like, we're always looking to get there, which, by the way, is a total myth. You're never gonna get there. You will reach new levels and you will start chasing that new level that is on the other side. But what was that moment? Do you remember? even if it's not a moment, but like even the journey or like the processes, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you've said it there. It's for sure a process. And when I was about 19, I kind of, it hit a wall. And I think I really had that make or break point of falling apart. I felt like really not being okay. And I was really lucky again, the school, they encouraged counselors and therapists to come into the school. So I look back and I think that moment could have gone one of two ways. And I felt really grateful for the school to have just swooped in.
That's
and
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that moment opened the Pandora's box, opened everything of how I was talking to myself. And that process, I learned so much about how to be kind to myself, how to nurture myself, how to support myself. And it was a real transition kind of spell, about, I think a year, 2 years probably. And I think learning those skills, I continued to audition, I continued to really fight in the ballet world, but I was bringing those lessons along with me. And there were moments I remember, crying my eyes out in hotel rooms in, Belgium, in cities, really random cities by myself, because I didn't get these auditions, and having to be like, remember those things though. And it was a really different process from kind of learning about myself and learning those techniques to cope with those things and actually handle them in a much more positive way. And again, through that years period, I was still out there. I was still sort of like what felt like the front line, facing all these directors and auditions, really there, but I was coping much differently. So when it kind of all did kind of not work out, and it was the end of audition season again, and I had no job again, I had grown enough confidence in myself, and through that process of being upset, but treating myself differently and crying, but using those techniques, I think at the end of that process, I suddenly realized it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think, again, you learn on the job, you learn through the adversity, that I was choosing myself every time. I was choosing myself. I was going, no, I don't know why I'm putting so much power in these directors' hands, directors I've never met, directors that don't care for me. I don't care for them. And they were the ones that were telling me whether I was good enough or not. They were the ones that were giving me the appreciation, the acceptance. And I sort of was so baffled that was the power dynamic. And, it was like waiting, falling asleep at night, every night, thinking, oh, I wonder if any emails come through where I'm going to get a job and my whole life will change. And that's such a dangerous, unstable place to be. Why would that email come through on a random Thursday night? Why would it? And I think from there, it was just all about grabbing that power back and being like, I'm going to decide if I'm good enough, how and when I'll perform, because I don't want to wait for anyone else to tell me I can. And yeah, it was a process, and definitely you learn through doing. And I'm so grateful for that experience, with a therapist, to understand how to kind of coach myself. And then when I continued to audition, it changed me. It changed me enormously. And then I think enabled me to be stronger for the next sort of pivot, for the next part of my journey, career.
Yeah. And then having the courage to say, hey guys, actually, I'm right now here and I'm really happy. And when I come back and you still have something open, I can then come and join you. Versus, I don't think that prior to this journey that you have gone through, you would have been able to do that because you wanted to please everybody, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can smell desperation.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, especially as a graduate, everyone is desperate. Everyone is so hungry, not only, for their dreams and their ambitions, but literally to get a job, literally to get money. This isn't a cheap career.
Yeah.
So it's the desperation is very, very real. But I think when you start to believe in actually okay, this might not happen, but it will at some point, and really kind of have that inner believe in yourself, the simplest thing, believe in yourself. I'm not saying they'll always materialize, every gig will go straight ahead, but maybe your journey will entirely change, and your experience on your journey.
Oh, it will. Absolutely. Yeah. When you stop chasing something and you set your intentions and you say, this is me, this is who I am, and I stand for it. There is a completely energy that you're putting out, and with it, you attract way different things. Let's go a little, I want to dig a little deeper even. So when we're seeing all of this, desperate and hunting and chasing, and the fear and the unworthiness and not enoughness, and the mental unfitness that we both are experienced in our careers, and that we are seeing in the people that are in the industry right now and coming in. I'm seeing that we're not paying enough attention to how we can prevent all of these mental challenges at this very point. What do you think on a daily basis? Like, what are habits that people could put into place in order to keep their mental no, just to actually put mental fitness as a priority, and understand that your physical fitness goes hand in hand with your mental fitness, and that if they are out of alignment, it just doesn't produce the best
Yeah.
that you could be.
Yeah, I think so much of it is acceptance and giving yourself permission. Again, this was literally something I learned, was giving myself permission to feel certain things
Mhm.
and to be allowed to not feel guilty about those things, not feeling ashamed or that I shouldn't be feeling those things. It was just giving myself permission to have a sulk, to have a bad day, to be angry, to be pissed off. Like, allowing yourselves to do them instead of squashing them is a really, really powerful technique. And it is something I use day to day. If I'm having a down day, and I've like, this is show 7 of 8 this week, I will give myself permission to be like, you know what, you're going to perform at 80%, because you can't perform at 100% every night. You can't. It's like, it's not like, and if you do, what is left for you? Like, you can't pour from an empty jug. And I think sometimes it's allowing yourself to lower a gear, to lower the percentage, and enabling yourself to do that. You gain power, you gain acceptance, but it also then allows you to push further. And now the next show, I am at 100% and I'm feeling good about it, because I allowed myself to not feel good so I can then feel better.
Mm.
It's a really difficult thing to learn, but I think that was a really big changer for me, was being like, I'm not going to feel bad about not being 100%. And I think so much of that unfortunately does start at school, because the sort of dynamic of teacher, and you would do anything for your teacher. You want them to love you, so you get the most corrections. They might help you get a job. You never know. Like, we do adore our teachers in a way that I think normal teachers don't adore their maths teachers and their science teachers. I think dancers really idolize their ballet teachers. And I think that sort of having a brave face and never complaining, not seeming, just always being the perfect student, does leak into our private lives and our personal lives. And I think when you come out of school and you don't have that teacher, you don't have that director, you're trying to please everyone. You're sort of almost on autopilot, trying to be 100% mask on, being perfect, shiny all the time, which is just unsustainable. And I think as a professional, you have to learn to be your own boss and be your own teacher and decide, who are you pleasing? Who is this all for? And allowing yourself to be on, a scale is a really good technique to take care of yourself, I think.
Very nice. So I want to add something to that. When you said, who are you going to try to please? It's finding that inner strength to be your own leader and not to rely on the other people, which starts in school with trying to be seen, trying to get all these corrections.
Yeah.
I think this is where we could make such a difference in mental fitness and actually really speak to these things. I don't know if you've ever seen Frozen. I mean, one of my son's favorite movies. And it is there. It says, conceal, don't feel. And those 3 words spoke to me so much when that movie first aired, because that was my life too. Don't feel, always stand there. Don't show your emotions, just smile. And that, yes, totally translates into your private life, because you're not allowed to be anything else. You're a dancer. You eat and breathe, and you are everything and anything at any given time as a dancer. Can you share with us how that materialized for you, like as in feelings, emotions, maybe physical kind of signs, and what did you do to get to the other side?
I think for sure my professionally, like my where it really felt like that was it, you know, that I had no chance, like I'd failed, was when, you know, about my second or third season of auditioning for classical companies, and, you know, was just always there, spending all my money auditioning, being told I was doing all the right things, but didn't happen. And there was one job, one of the last ones, and the audition was, you know, end of March, so really nearing the end of the audition season, and waiting for the, you know, it was one of those classic ones where it was like, oh, we'll let you know, we'll let you know, we'll let you know, and it was months and months later. And again, that was a point in my life where I was just checking my phone as if it was just going to like magically appear and my whole life would change. It was like I was on the cusp for months, which is just an unhealthy place to be, and really was. And I think at that, especially to that season of auditions, experience and anxiety that I remember very clearly, but not really haven't experienced since. An anxiety that really lay at the pit of my stomach. Like, you know, it felt like loose electrical wires just going on in my stomach and shocking me in a way that I couldn't control, was distracted by, but was so obviously a physical reaction to an anxiety. And, you know, every audition it would prang and pull. And yeah, when I was waiting for this yes or no for months email, it was there the whole time. And when I got the no, I remember just, you know, I had nothing left. I think I'd cried as many tears as I could. And I remember, again, I'm incredibly close to my mother, and she held held my face, sorry, and my tears were just falling into her palms. And I think I remember it so clearly, because I remember feeling like, this is it. I've failed. And I've not got anything that I wanted, or anything that I worked so hard for, which is a lie in itself. I'd performed, I'd done the ballet thing, I had been on stages, so that was, you know, it was a lie I was telling myself. But in the moment, it entirely felt like I'd failed. And I think in that moment, it's just like I said earlier, it was that sort of like, do I want to study? Like, what do I want to do? And I think from there it was like, well, I just want to perform. Like it was about performing from the beginning. And I got so lost in the technique and all the things I wasn't, and all the shortcomings I had, that I forgot that it was about performing. And yeah, that's when I kind of took myself to London and wanted just to be in front of people smiling, and wanted to get a job. And I think cruise contracts are an amazing opportunity and are an amazing avenue for a lot of dancers, and really were for me. And I'm really grateful to some jazz teachers I've had in the past. And again, it's that sort of that people telling you things before you're ready to accept them. And one jazz teacher in particular saying like, oh, Lydia, you look great in feathers. I can see you in feathers. And me being like, no, like,
you
no,
don't want
like,
to
almost
hear that.
Exactly, almost offended. I was like,
yes,
why?
No, not me.
Exactly. I was like, no, like I'm going to be in a tutu. You're confused. And then I remember contacting him, and again, so grateful for these teachers in my life that believed in me. And he lined me up and said, go to this, do this, try that, get some photos, buy this shoe, like do this, and encouraged me. And I was like, maybe it's worth a try. And total trial and error. I remember my first audition, like turning up a little bit rosy cheeks, like a very little Vaseline on the lips, and was with these girls with curls and red lips, false eyelashes, and was like, oh, I definitely didn't get the memo. Definitely need to try a little bit harder next time. And slowly, I kind of zhuzhed myself up and learned how to do these auditions. And, you know, got a job. And that sort of, again, like that experience was fun in a way that ballet wasn't fun anymore. And I, you know, in the queue was so long. I don't know how well you know Covent Garden, but the queue like goes around the block. But I would chat to the girls in the queue, and it was all fun. Like no one ever chatted in a ballet audition. No one ever spoke. And so the whole experience was fun, and I didn't mind it, and I was getting places, and I was like, well, this is off the back end. Like this for me always felt like the second prize, and this is the silver medal, and I'm having a great time. Like I'm happy with the silver medal. Like I don't need, like I'm so content on how this has thrown me. And I think, you know, now, and it's funny because the job I was waiting for, that email, the kind of the pivotal moment, was the job I have now. And I just needed another 18 months and that job would be mine. But I think, you know, life tells you, life shows you what you need, and going away, becoming more confident, becoming a better jazz dancer, knowing who I am as an individual, not just an artist, was exactly the thing I needed. So when they did want me, I arrived and I was there, and I'm a much better employee, a much better worker and dancer for them now than I would have been if I'd gotten the yes initially.
So here are the things that I've heard from you to summarize that. You actually forgot your why,
Yeah.
and you were just chasing something that you thought you had to because everybody else was doing it, perhaps, or that was the dream that was put the most recognition to. And when you were able to hit your personal rock bottom, however that looked like, and the tears were all cried out, you were able to hear more and to see more, and you found your why again. You like, I want to perform, like this is my why. And you opened yourself up to other opportunities that you would probably have never seen or be ready to receive if you had stayed in that mindset of I have to.
Yeah. No, I think tunnel vision is very, very powerful, and to a lot of people's detriment. I think, again, I would encourage any young dancer to open your eyes. You can have your like tunnel vision, but make that tunnel transparent, keep focus, but don't ignore and disregard those other options. Because I think what I did, I feel like I pushed myself so far out onto a cliff, so far on such a narrow little cliff, that when it didn't work, I was alone and I didn't have those other options. And I think those other options were always there. And you're right, like, ballet is I do love it. It is beautiful, and it for sure was my first love. And I'm so grateful again for that training. It's so crucial, and it's at the heart of any dance. But I think if I had just ended up in a ballet company, say I got those jobs, I think there's a lot of sides to me. There's a lot of colors and skills that I have that might have come out once a season. Maybe, when I got a bit older and they might have given me a bit of a solo, or some choreographer came in and wanted something different. Maybe, I don't know. But I think now I really feel utilized. I feel like I'm actually exploring every avenue of myself as an artist, rather than just the tunnel vision, just thinking I was one thing. Well, actually, I wasn't giving myself the best opportunity, wasn't seeing my own potential.
Okay, let's talk about diversity, because I think that is something that is imperative in so many aspects on becoming your very best version. I grew up with diversity not being something encouraged, fostered, seen as necessary. All you have to do is learn everything about dance and ballet, and you'll be fine. And your journey of learning ends the day you leave the school, and then you just be perfect.
Just be perfect. Yeah,
just
exactly.
Be perfect 100% of the time, right? And what I've learned over the years is that mentality, that focus, that belief actually was one area that helped me back in becoming more and better, and being able to make that tunnel lighter and shine the light and take down the walls, right? That box was just really, really tight. And I think I believe it is super important for that generation getting into the theaters, or even the people that are right now performing. It is so important. You can be multi-passionate. You can have many things in your life that light you up. And yes, you put in your time and you become your expert with your 10,000 hours of practice. That doesn't mean daily. You already did that. What I want to hear your thoughts on it, because you kind of snaked on it in your intro, and I want to dive a little deeper on that. Because I still now in my 40s look at myself and say, hey, diverse. Yeah, I can just not be too much in every direction or be interested in too many things, because I'm just not going to be good enough.
Yeah, I think like I said at the beginning, and it's things I'm so grateful for that were just completely by accident. At the beginning, my school was my teacher when I was 5-6 years old. She wasn't a ballet teacher. She wasn't an ex-ballet dancer who opened a dance school. She was a jazz dancer. So my initial experience of dance was doing competitions, was smiling, was dancing around to songs I knew, and it was fun and it was lively. And again, that sort of got put on pause when I was doing the ballet thing. And coming out the other end, I knew, and even when I was at school, again, maybe it was the height, I don't know, or maybe I just didn't want to compete with the likes of the small girls who had impeccable footwork. And I just felt like I didn't have that. So I would always go towards the more like neoclassical solos and push myself towards those because I knew I was better at them. Again, not really knowing how, just thought I was better at them within the bracket of ballet. And then when everything did sort of fall apart, I thought, I'll give it a go. I'll give the jazz a go. And like you said, I was really nervous because I was like, I'm going to be rubbish. These girls have trained just as hard as me, have done just as many hours as me, but just in this avenue, just in this style. And me thinking I can just hop across with no issue, like that's a bit, I can't do that. Like I'm not going to be good enough. And that was, again, the mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that the thing I had, and again, it's the rock bottom, the importance and the novelty of rock bottom is you have nothing to lose. And I think I went to those auditions knowing I did not have the training, did not come from these jazz schools, didn't wear my red lipstick, but I had nothing to lose. So I think I allowed myself, I just gave it a go. There was nothing riding on it. There were no expectations. There was no heartache, there was no trauma attached to the yes or the no, or you're through to the next round. There was nothing. And it freed me up entirely. So going to these auditions, I just had to go. And even as late as I was in my cruise contract, on the ship in the middle of the Mediterranean, and was still learning things and was still asking and still watching my castmates and was learning so much. And I think diversity is so important. And I think it just sort of goes back to the kind of career you want to have. When I was younger, I thought I only wanted ballet, which is risky. You're riding a lot on one thing. If it works, great, good for you. But I think you have to play the odds, and the odds of that happening are low for a lot of dancers. And if you want a career on stage, a career with performance in it, you have to be versatile and you have to get that diversity. And again, my school was really good. We did flamenco, we did tap, we did jazz. I didn't want to go to them often. I remember there's such a stigma, and it was always trying to find an injury to get out of them because no one wanted to do them.
Me too.
I know, it was awful. Someone started crying, I need to go help her, I don't want to be in the lesson. But it was there, and I think that's what made that jump possible for me, to be honest. And again, I'm so grateful to my school to be giving me a plan B, giving me a little safety net without me even realizing it. And and just learned on the job. And I think I'm still learning so much, still got a long way to go, but I'm just not as afraid anymore. And I think with every kind of performance, every person I fool, it kind of gives me confidence that maybe actually it doesn't matter that I didn't spend XY amount of time in jazz and in heels and in fishnets, but I did, ballet is great, and I know that will serve me and has served me. So it's a process, but I think it's massively shaped my career, and I think it will continue to for a really long time.
Beautiful. When you say you fooled them, I want to not correct it, but maybe look at it from a different perspective, because I don't think you fool anybody just because you didn't have the training, because that, your knowledge, and it's in business the same way, your actual knowledge and your technical skills are 20%. What your mind is capable of, where your mindset is at, how you can navigate yourself through failure is the other 80%. And I think that's where we're going a little offside when we're teaching dance, when we're teaching ballet, that you're only seen good and worthy if you're in a tutu and you have pointe shoes on, and anything else is just even lower.
Yeah.
Right. And that is not the case. I mean, look at us. What did we just say? We wanted to skip jazz dance. We wanted to skip the modern class. I hated modern, but not because I wasn't good at it. I could have been great if I could have just let go. And if I would have been open to the possibility that, hey, actually, that makes me happy. It gives me something, and not what other people expect of me to be.
or what it means to be a dancer, or what my mother wants me to be, you know? And this is where we can, like, if we were to equalize, like, if your why is to perform, then that's your why, and how you express yourself on stage and how you impact others with the soul that you are opening up to them and the energy exchange that you're creating does really not matter.
Yeah.
You're
No,
not less or you're not
agree.
more, right? So Friedrichstadt-Palast, a near and dear place for me because I grew up around there. I walked Friedrichstraße every day on my way to the Staatsoper. And always had a little, I was lucky enough to go and take classes there sometimes and just, you know, hang with the cool girls, basically, the ones that were women and stood in their power. And I always looked at them, hey, this would be so much fun, but I never had the guts to audition because I was afraid what other people would think. Tell me why you are feeling like you're home there. Why is it such a good place?
I think as a tool dancer, it's, and I know I don't want to use that as an excuse, but I think it's it can, you know, it's a bit of a spite, a little bit of salt in the wounds. And I remember, you know, working for a company and being literally told, like, we like you, you're everything we want, but you're just too tall. And again, it's just such a cop out. It's just like, then hire
Make room for me.
Hire, exactly. Like, I just, you know, and it is hard. And I remember the first time I had to audition 3 times before I got it. The first time, looking in the room, and I remember standing with them and, like, you know, waiting my turn to the exercise, because you just joined, I was just with the company, and actually, like, getting it and being like, you know what, I do fit in here. Like, I understand why directors are like, sorry, you're just too tall. Because I was like, this is what it's like to just fit in, to just be at one with the rest of the group. And I did understand it there. And I think that's incredibly powerful. What we're encouraged there more than I've ever experienced is to be an individual, bring your own flavor, bring your own take, bring your own creativity to every role we do. And that's enormous fun. It's a playground. And that means that you're not compared. I mean, obviously that does still exist, but I'm not trying to look like her when I do it. I'm trying to look like me when I do it. And, you know, one girl does one role and she does it like this, and then the next day the costume's given to someone else and she does it entirely differently. And that's awesome. Like, that's great. That's how it should be. We should be able to express ourselves as we are, rather than as pleasing directors or pleasing whoever we think. It should be from within. And that's enormously fulfilling and satisfying, you know, from the hungry dancer that just wanted to please everyone else to now be doing it as I want and, you know, doing it right, you know. So that's really, I think, what's most important to me. And I remember telling my mum years ago, being like, if I just find a place where I fit in and I feel right, like, that's all I want in my career. That's all I want. And, you know, my first few weeks there, being like, I think I found it. I'm right. I've got the right skills. I'm in the right place. I look the right part. And it's huge. And I think the women there are so inspiring. You know, I love looking around it, of different ages and different, everyone's got their own journey there and their different experience, and it makes us all so different. And I get so inspired by that, and I love the room to grow that we have there. And yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. And for the people that don't know what Friedrichstadt-Palast is, when you say you're able to be your own, be creative, stay curious, to, you know, to be free in what you're doing, let's not forget Friedrichstadt-Palast is around girl lines. It's about being together, but be yourself. And I think this is where they've gone in such a beautiful way to the encouragement. I truly believe that if we encourage everybody to be themselves, we'll meld together so much more beautiful and are able to create so much more than if we are just asking them to be exactly the same.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, we do the same show for 2 years. And so it's a lot of time. It's a long time to play and create. So that's also, you know, that gives us a hand to experiment. but also within the show, you do several parts. So yeah, like you said, there's always a kick line, a girl dance, where we do have to look exactly the same, and it's all about the precision. It's all about just the ensemble, like that mass kind of chorus. But then there are other parts where everyone's got their own costume, and you can bring so much character to it. So it's a playground. It's a total playground, and I love that. And obviously it's hard, it's incredibly demanding. I think we're only really compared to the likes of West End or Broadway dances, 8 shows a week. It's grueling. It's really, really grueling. But I love that kind of balance, that cross section that we live in. And having just ballet dancers is incredibly powerful, because we all know hard work. We all know precision and discipline, and we do our ballet class every day. We're very, very true to our roots, but it's then the embellishment, the feathers on top that are just the best bit. And it's a really, really great company.
Okay, 8 shows a week. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about giving 100%, how that is not possible. With 8 shows a week, how do you keep yourself from getting injured and burned out? What is how do you not protect your energy, but how do you support yourself in a really high level that you are able to step on stage 8 days out of the week, or 8 times? You have Sunday double performance, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been tough, because obviously I literally started November, so I really was kind of gaining momentum and growing my legs before the world went into hiding.
Different, yeah.
So it's frustrating, because I don't want to be fraudulent and pretend I've been doing it for years, because I haven't. I mean, the cruise ship was incredibly grueling too, but it's the repetitive of one show on one stage, 8 shows a week, it's tough. And I think for me, my experience there, I was kind of thrown onto a lot of roles very quickly, so really was just trying to blend initially, was just trying to not get any corrections, was just trying to do my job to the level and nothing more.
Trying to not get any corrections.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just trying to know then there was nothing wrong. I was just trying to meet the bar. I was filling girls' costumes. I'm filling old girls who used to do it, who now got moved on to something else. It really was just being good enough. And it's a big company, about 60 dancers, so was very overwhelmed. And I think actually I hit a point in February, January time of just being like, why am I not there? Why am I not present anymore? What am I not excited about? And I think for so long I was just trying to blend, just trying to do what was possible and what I was told to do, that I forgot to be myself on stage. And again, it's you never stop growing, you never stop learning. And I was thinking when I was on the ship, we did the same 5 shows every week, and I was like, I never got bored of those. Why am I getting a little bit, why am I not as inspired? And I think I forgot to enjoy myself. I forgot to have fun every night and push myself a little bit further and try something new every night. And that's definitely what I felt like. As soon as I remembered that, it all changed again. And I, if it had continued, I'd love to carry on doing that. And when we get back on stage, I'm excited to do that again, because that's definitely what keeps it interesting. And sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes you try a new move, or you try a new pose, or you go a bit further and you might stumble, you might fall, and you're like, oh, don't do that again. But that's the experiment, that's the fun, and that's how you continue to grow as an artist. Because I'm incredibly ambitious. There's so much I want to do, so I don't want to ever get too comfortable.
All right, let's talk about that. What is it? What's your vision?
It's funny, and I feel like if you would ask me a year ago, I might have said a different answer.
Oh.
But with the podcast, and I think with this pause, with not performing, it's obviously been so reflective and so, everyone's had to look inside. And I think, like we've said so much already, dance is so important to me. It's in my blood. And I think I don't want to ever stop. I have to be involved in the dance world. I think after I can't perform, I don't want to give it up. I'm really excited to teach. I think I'd love to be the teacher I didn't have. I'd love to be the teacher that could just find one student and maybe stop them getting as sad that night, or just stop those habits forming in their head. I would love just to get hands on and really see it as the experience I had. I'm also just so excited to try new things. This year we performed on live TV this year. I mean, crazy in this kind of day and age. We were on Germany's Next Top Model, and that was something I've never done before.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's something I never thought I'd be on live TV, and I somehow managed to do it in 2020 of all years. And talking to the guests I've had on the podcast, I'm seeing how many routes, how many avenues there are, and like also that I don't have to have done it by now. I've got so much time ahead of me, and I'll learn every single day. And actually, I don't know what it is, but I'm excited to kind of get in there. I want to be where the magic is happening, where the creative stuff is happening, and I think from 5 years ago, Lydia, where she just wants to be in a tutu, and she would have someone told her she was good enough, she would have stopped and been happy. I never want that to happen. I never want to have the mentality of someone else telling me I can stop and someone else telling me I'm good enough. And I think for me, I need to keep growing. I need to keep doing things and learning. And for me, I think that's how I'll stay happy, actually, and stay sane, is by not creating a finish line for myself. So I'm excited to just try and to really kind of get in there. I'm so lucky to be from England, where the dance scene in London is thriving and so exciting, and there's so many great creators coming out of there. And I hope one day to be in there too, just to be involved, to be it, to see it, to really be where the magic's at. That's all I want. I'm such a mega fan of dance. I really am. I sound like such a nerd, but I love the impact it has on me and on people, and I don't want to ever give that up, really.
Beautiful. Let's talk about your podcast. So how did it come about?
I mean,
what's the purpose?
The purpose, I think, again, it's funny. I've always been I write quite a lot, and I've always put these pieces together. And again, on the cruise ship, when you have no Wi-Fi and you spend days at sea, there's a lot of time to review. Yeah, exactly.
Go within, right?
Yeah. So it's on the ship, I spend a lot of time kind of just, I don't know, it was probably a creative, outlet. And one of my close friends I made on the ship, I remember reading him something that I'd written, just happened. This is early lockdown. And he just was like, you've got to do something with it. You've got to do something with it, Lydia. And if all it is, you can blame it on the coronavirus, blame it on the lockdown, blame it on you being crazy. And it's so funny that it was that was the motivation I needed. It was that to be like, oh, it's an escape card. It's a sort of like a blame card. I have an excuse because of the pandemic. Before that, I was too proud. With anything, you don't want to start anything if it's going to fail. You want to start something and then it's a booming success. And I think, for such a long time.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but isn't that so true though? I'm not even going to start because I'm already putting the hat on it, the lid on it. It's going to fail.
Yeah, totally. And I think, especially,
why is that? Why?
I think we're very, very proud. I feel dancers particularly are very proud. It's like we were saying, you keep it in, you want to save face. And I think maybe I found myself judging others maybe and being like, oh God, she's trying to do this or she's trying to do that. And I don't like that quality in myself. And I'm untraining myself to do that, because everyone does have to start somewhere, whether it's a venture online, you're becoming, starting something new, you're testing yourself in a new genre of dance, give it a go. We're all just trying our best. And I think, but it does exist, that the judgment and the stigma does exist.
Yeah, I think you said something earlier. You said you were trying not to get corrections, meaning you didn't want to do anything that could offend somebody, or be the wrong thing, or would make you not being liked. And I can very much relate to that. So with you starting a podcast during, let's say, the time you were still dancing, could have possibly, in your mindset at that point, put you into that position. There's just no difference though too. I'm just glad you did, because it's a really good podcast, and I am so proud of you that you've chosen that route. So purpose, and how often do you drop episodes? And if people want to be on your podcast, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I drop an episode every Wednesday. I have a few more episodes left of this year, but then we're stopping for season 2, and I'll get back at it in the new year. The purpose is just enrichment, I would say. It's encouragement. It's it's fulfilling, it's storytelling, it's sharing. And throughout my career, as I've already said, you know, sharing and acknowledging and acceptance are powerful things. And I think as dancers, again, we're incredibly private. We don't tell other people our experiences. We don't share what the things we didn't get and the things that people said. Like, we don't share that stuff. And if we do, it would make us all feel so much better. We'd be like, oh, okay, this girl who I see as a success, I see as made it, she had the exact same struggles I had, or she also got rejected from there, or she also was told to lose weight, or she also had to pivot. You know, there's so many different things we share that until we start talking about it, you don't realize. And I think I found that so much in my own career, and especially moving genres a little bit, like going on the cruise ship, coming from this ballet background that I thought would isolate me. I thought, you know, people wouldn't understand, but it doesn't matter where you're from or the training you've had. We share so much, and that's a great thing. You know, it really bonds us. And from that experience, kind of having met people on the, you know, real mix from the dance world, it fueled this need to create a community and create a safe, happy, encouraging space, because so much of what we do is alone, and it's hard. And I think I would have loved, like, selfishly, I would have loved to listen to this podcast, would love to listen to some of the guests that I've had and been reminded that it's okay to fail, it's okay to be rejected, it's okay to change your mind and go on a cruise ship, it's okay. And that's really just what I want to create. And it's been for me more than I think it's been for anyone else. Like, it's helped me get through this year massively. It's reignited my passion. I've learned so much about the dance world. I've, like, spoken to people I never thought I'd speak to, and learned so much about them that will continue to help me and help my career. So it's been an amazing exercise, an amazing learning curve for me. And I'm really excited to kind of see where it'll go. It's obviously will be difficult when I'm performing again, but I'm really excited kind of the different angle. I think, again, initially, sorry, I'm really going on. Initially,
sorry. Oh, good, love. Go ahead.
Initially, I felt that it is great that a lot of, you know, really experienced, established professionals kind of have the platform. They have that, well, I've done it, I'm a success, and I'll tell you my story. And often for them, they are that good because they've always been that good, and they've maybe just gone straight through one school, had a really easy career trajectory. And that's great. And they've obviously got so much, you know, insight and experience worth telling. But what you're not hearing are the people who wiggled around, who did different things and have tried. Like, I wanted to hear their stories, I think. And also people who are in it right now. And that's really kind of my angle with the podcast is I'm young, I'm 23, I'm really in the business, and I've changed so much in the last few years, and I probably will change again in the next 2-3 years. But I think it's the kind of experience and the fact that I'm really in this, that I like to think gives me an edge and gives me it makes the podcast a bit different, because I'm very much in it as much as my listeners are, and I'm learning as much as they are. And I think, yeah, I'm just loving it. I really am. It's never what I thought would have come out of this year, but it's been so valuable to me, and I'm really excited to keep at it.
Beautiful. I think that's where the longing for diversity comes in. Building that community. I mean, Point to Rise has now 748 members in the community, which shows me that, yes, there is a need. Like, we want to share, we want to huddle, we want to feel connected. And that's different than having just an audience that you put yourself in front of and then go home. And we're not sharing any interests. As I've learned so much about story and storytelling this year, where, you know, this is how we communicated way back when we draw these little, you know, pictures on the stone wall, and this is how skills were passed on to other people, by communication, by telling stories, and that has not changed. And particularly dancers, I find we're so scared of sharing our stories because we don't want to be judged, or we don't want to come across as not perfect. And if we were just be able to, like, stand in our own a little bit more and understand that, hey, your struggles make you, man. I mean, your struggles are your superpower, because they're not infinite. Like they're not something that you have to hold on. Failure is not something that makes you less. Failure is an opportunity to succeed, to be more, to learn more, to pass more on, to change the world, you know? And I feel that is so, so imperative. And thank you for doing that. And I hope that even if you go back to 8 shows a week, that you will find a way on still having these conversations, because it's all in our mind on how we can structure that.
No, I totally agree. And it feeds us and it keeps us safe and it keeps us inspired. And I think as a community, we should just encourage that and encourage the breed of creativity and the you know, the cultivation of inspiration. You know, it comes from everywhere and we can learn so much. And I'm really excited just to be putting one thing out into this big, you know, this big world, this big platform or atmosphere, whatever, just to have created one thing that might make one listener, you know, smile. Like that's just all I would want. And, you know, it's been a great experience.
As long as we know our why, right?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, we are going to link up where we can find you in the show notes. And just as a closing to bring it in, what is one thing you want to give all of these dancers that are sitting at home right now that, you know, feel somewhat lost perhaps, and, you know, are literally waiting for their life to start up again? What is that one thing you want to give them, pass on to them, encourage them with?
It's not over. I think it's not over until you say it's over. And although we're not performing, no one is really performing, this experience is serving you. It's growing, it's changing you, and it's worth something. So as difficult as it is, I'm scratching my hair, it's driving me mad also. It is a part of our journey, unfortunately, and it is an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for healing and for digesting and understanding and processing, and that will be worth something. Might not be obvious one now, but it will be one day. And I think keep hope, and it's just not over. I promise it's not over until you say it is. So yeah, just keep believing.
Everything is happening for us, right? Nothing is happening against us or to us. Yeah,
exactly.
I think if you keep that perspective, everything will be just grand. Thank you so much, Lydia. This has been awesome.
So good. Yes. I know. I just love being on the other side. It's so much fun. And I think, like I said earlier, I was like, oh, God, stop talking. I'm like, oh no, like I'm the guest this time. I'm the guest.
We should do a second part to this, because there are so many layers that I have. Not many notes, I can't, but I know you said so many things that are, I remember that person. I remember her thinking that way and feeling that way. And I think you and I sharing it just gives other people the permission to feel it.
Yes.
And to be then see, oh, hey, I am not different. I am not broken. I'm not kaput. I'm just like everybody else in this business. And I'll just keep going. Yeah.
No, you're so right. And I think I believe for such a long time that if I was struggling to cope, because it like that meant I wasn't made for it. That meant I couldn't do it, because if I could do it, if this career was made for me, I would be finding it easy. And I thought, like, this was meant for me, this is supposed to be what my life is, why am I finding it so hard? And I didn't tell anyone. I wasn't talking about the fact I found it so hard. And I think until I realized that actually everyone finds it really hard, I was like, oh, actually, it is just hard. I can still do this. It is still made for me. It is still my purpose. It's just hard. And I think, like you said, permission. If you hear someone else say, this is really hard, you allow yourself to feel it too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.